Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is A Woman's Prerogative, and our topic is My Idea of the Ideal Date Is. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I wear many hats here at our network. I am the founder, president, chief listening officer, and producer, sometimes host on our channel here. And I am joined by two other dynamic women, and we are going to have a wonderful conversation about the perfect date. Let's welcome our two panelists. We have joining us from New Zealand, MARISKA Dupree. Hello.
Hello, hello. How are we today?
Hello, doing well, thank you. And joining us from East Africa, it's Janetta Barry and the Epiphany Process. My fourth time with Janetta today. Hello.
Hello, you. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mariska.
So we, at the end of the show, we're going to go around and give a little bit of information about ourselves so people can contact us. But I thought it would be fun to just talk about what our experience is in the dating world and where we are in our lives today. If we're in a relationship that's monogamous and we're having date nights with someone, or if we're not having date nights, or we're not monogamous, or any or all of the above that you care to share. There's no rules. So let's start with Mariska.
Well, okay, let's start with me then. So yes, married. Don't know if you guys can see that. And date nights, let's see, it's not a necessarily set. This is something that happens once every fill in the blank. It is more of a when we feel like it type of thing. And I don't know, sometimes I think our date nights has a bit of a special flavor to it, in the sense that we have a tendency to zhuzh it up a little bit or down a little bit, depending on your view of date nights. So yes, we find it quite interesting and dynamic. And yes, sometimes those date nights are at home and sometimes they're away from home. So I will leave it at that for now, and we can hear from Janetta and find out what she's up to.
Tell us more, Janetta.
Oh, wow. Well, actually, there's a lot going on from somebody who is engaged, and I haven't told this to actually too many people, getting married on the 22nd of October.
Wow, what? Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. There's been so much going on. And, I have said from the outset that when we agreed we would do this, we thought, right, we'll just go away quietly. Or I thought, we'll just go away quietly. This isn't my first marriage. It isn't Andy's first marriage either. And when we get back, we'll say, oh, by the way, everybody, let's have a party. Let's party. This has happened. And Andy said, no. Don't like that. So, and then the family went, are you out of your bracket? So I agreed, but we also agreed it would be very low key. So on the 22nd, we're getting married overlooking the Great Rift Valley where we stay. And we've got literally a handful of people there, but a lot of friends and family who just can't make it. Mariska, you'll appreciate this. Any of my family that have settled down in South Africa, the rand just doesn't allow a trip to Kenya. Kenya's not cheap, and well, it's not cheap for South Africans. And they came out for my 60th, and they're still paying that off. So they won't be there, but they'll all be on Zoom. So we've got friends and family from all over the world on Zoom on the day, and a handful of friends who are here. And it's still the small, intimate gathering that I wanted it to be. It's not about the actual wedding. And so that's what's been happening slowly in the back scenes.
Well, I know I speak for Mariska and myself, we're really happy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
And what's my example of a date night? Well, when we're living in UK, Andy and I love getting into London from Oxford, and we both have the same interest, thank goodness. Well, that's why we're together, in theatre. So often we're at the Royal Albert Hall, or at the Royal Ballet, or we're at some theatre in the middle of London. And to me, I've died and gone to heaven. It's the most precious thing to have a man in my life that has the same interest in theatre as I do. And so that to me is the ultimate of a date night. The last time, just before we came over, because we spent some of the time here in Kenya and some in UK. And just before I came away, we went to the Royal Albert Hall and had dinner at the Italian restaurant at the Royal Albert Hall. And I go back going, wow, what an experience to be able to do all that. So that's one date night that I really, really love with Andy. And most Fridays we except here, because once everything's down and the hyenas are around, nighttime's a little bit more difficult to get out with. But Fridays is where we do something special. That's our time together, where I promise I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at my laptop. I'm not. I'm here and I'm present, and I'm with you, and that is fantastic. So often we go out to a date lunch now here on a Friday.
Sounds fabulous.
I can appreciate that you don't want to be going out at night and maybe giving the hyenas a unlooked for snack.
Well, this is true. Well, I don't think they get to us very easily, but it really is quite a trek, quite a safari, we'd say in Kenya. Trek in South Africa, but it's a safari here to get to anywhere, and it's fairly dark road, and to get to the other side of the lake, and it's like nah, we'll stay at home. It's much better. But it's how you create these things. So often things like, do you either of you know raclette?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to educate you now. It's Swiss. It's it's Swiss. So what you do is you get raclette cheese and anything that you want to grill. So it's a bit like fondue, but it's different in that it's flat and with a grill. So you have a top slab and underneath a grill, and then a tray under that grill, and tiny little trays with a handle where you can put slices of potato and raclette cheese and melt it underneath there, and on the top you can cook whatever you want. So we have a variety of things like seafood or meat or whatever. And Andy calls it my dagwood. I call it my surf and turf. And I do steak on the top, whilst and some prawns, and then I start putting layers of it with layers of raclette. And by the time I've got it done, it's under the grill about that high, and then it comes off, and it takes me 10 minutes to eat. But we've sat and we've cooked together on the table. And it's just so lovely. We can sit and relax, and I'm not rushing preparing food. Andy really loves cooking, but he's not standing preparing food. We're just sitting, and again, we can be present with each other. And I think food cooked that way is so much more tasty and enjoyable, where you're cooking as a community. So when we have guests for a raclette, oh, it's amazing. You sit there and we're all cooking our own meals, chatting away. We haven't got one person standing in the kitchen whilst the other three sit at the table. It makes so much sense. But when it's just two of us, fabulous date night, home date night. Recommended.
Oh, I love that.
That sounds like fun for sure.
It is.
Yes.
It really is.
I think what I appreciate most about it is the fact that it is something that you guys share at the same time, and you can have fun, and it's not a you do this and I do this sort of thing. It's a shared experience within that.
That's so true. And also you can choose what you want to eat.
Yes.
I might say I only want this, and in fact sometimes Andy puts some tiny sausages on and I don't want those, and it doesn't matter, because what we don't cook isn't eaten and is eaten another time. So it just makes so much sense. So those are our date nights. And also Andy was a racehorse breeder, actually lost his 2 racehorses during COVID. But yeah, so a lot to do with racing and going to see his horses. When he had his foals, we were there at 2:00 in the morning for the birth of one of the foals at the stud farm. Also, just such a different way to go out, and where it's just the two of us. We'd go to Ascot or one of those things, and it was our time together when we did racing. So I mean, there are many ways to do date nights in different disguises, where they can be date days.
Yeah, I'm learning all kinds of things. Very interesting.
I love the idea of a date day.
Date day that could turn into a date night to a date weekend.
Well, this is true.
Why not?
Prolonged. I mean, let's draw it out, shall we?
Yeah,
Yes.
when you're really into each other and you have the time. Why not?
Oh, and I haven't mentioned this. Here I am, all these things. To me, the most stimulating date night is really good conversation. I just find it, to me, I wouldn't say it's a turn on, but it kind of is, when you can talk about things in ways that other people sit there going, what? It's just so stimulating to me to be able to go into the intricacies. When Andy and I met, we met at a really classy restaurant in London, met up, and we met at 12, and at 7 o'clock it was like, well, I think we better go, because it was such absorbing conversation. So there we go. Find it really, really, really what I love in a relationship.
Well, it sounds like you're both in very happy relationships that are fulfilling and exciting at the same time. And I'm wondering, when you think back through your whole life, what are some memorable dates that you've had with, no names mentioned, whomever, at whatever point in time? You don't have to say, but just what were the dates like?
Janetta
is laughing and Mariska's looking.
I'm thinking, right. So
what do you have, Janetta? She's got something.
I see she's cracking up there.
I have quite a few. The one was I went out. Actually, eventually she married her husband, and her daughter became one of Victoria's Secret's the model in New York. But at that stage, this friend of mine decided that she wasn't sure if she should be marrying who she was going to marry. And she said to him, listen, I need some time out to just think this through. So she organized a date with two specialist doctors that were from overseas. One was Israeli and the other one was Canadian. And we all went out in a group date, the four of us. And it was in the days where you couldn't get movies on DVDs. I mean, that's really showing my age. And so if you'd seen a movie, it would have been that you'd seen it years ago because you couldn't get it anymore. So I'm at this place and we're talking about movies, and I said, and it had been a long time since I'd seen it, and I said, actually, one of my favorite movies that I'd seen a lot as a child was Gone with the Wind. And of course, this guy, who was a really nice guy up until that point, said to me, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. I was so insulted. I never replied to any of his texts or anything, or any of his calls. There weren't texts in those days. And it wasn't until I had a child and it came out as a VHS. And we all sat down and I said, oh, here's Gone with the Wind. And of course, when Rhett Butler said, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, I went, wow, I might have been married to a Canadian gynecologist by now.
Wait, you didn't understand the significance of that line?
I thought it was incredibly rude. So rude. How dare you?
That's like the classic line of the movie.
I know.
Now with all the
yeah, but don't forget, in those days, most people didn't know it. The movie didn't know it was the classic line of the movie, and it had been about 15 years since I had watched it, and I was a child then. So the fact when the movie became more readily available, everybody went, wow, that's the classic line. But before that, people didn't know it. And I had forgotten it because I think I'd watched it when I was about 12. So I sat there going, what a rude man.
And there he was trying to impress you. Poor guy.
Saying to me, yes, I know the movie and I know the punchline. And he saw me, he must have gone, what's happened to her? Because I just sat there in silence for the rest of the evening.
Jeanette, I hope you're not playing any movie trivia with Andy or anyone else, because that
now I am up to speed. But in those days, you couldn't re-watch movies like we can now and know all the punchlines and really say, well, I'm really showing my age. So that's one of them. Over to you, Mariska. Take the heat off me.
I'm not sure I'll be able to. Oh man, that is so good. I think, well, I can honestly say that I don't recall any memorable date nights such as the one you had. I did have so when I was still in school, I was dating, of course, and me and my friend, her brother and his friend. So I was dating the friend, not the brother. But the four of us decided we will go off and have a bit of a adventure that day. And we went to an ice skating rink. Now, I have never ice skated before. And I thought, this sounds like fun, something new for me to do. Never done this before. They told me put on like warm jackets and all the rest because it can be quite cold. I'm like, yep, okay, great. Got all of that done, got in the ring. And of course, not having skated before, was a bit wobbly, stayed close to the side. And then my friend's brother said, hey, just hold my hand and I'll help you, because he's been skating quite a bit. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll do that. So we started off skating. And of course, I'm still wobbly. right? Never done this thing before. It's weird. And I feel my balance going. And I feel my balance going. And I'm like, okay, I need to do something because I'm going to fall. And I ended up falling. And as I was falling, he was trying to help me and came closer. Unfortunately, at that exact same time, my thumb was in the way. So he actually cut my thumb, the top of my nail, off with his ice skates. Needless to say, that was the end of our fun day because I needed to go and get my thumb bandaged up and go to hospital to get a few injections and all the other fun stuff that goes with that. So yes, not such a fun one like you had, Janetta, but definitely memorable. And I can say that my thumb the nail doesn't quite grow out the way it's supposed to or used to. So I will forever remember said day.
Guess what? He certainly knows how to cut the ice.
Yes, he does.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's quite a date.
That is quite a date.
Well, definitely something I'll remember.
Yes, you cut it fine. You really
Yes.
cut it fine. Yeah.
Very.
I've had a lot of really memorable dates, a lot of really bad dates, but I had an amazing date when I was 50. It was my 50th birthday. And I had been seeing someone who was really nice to me. And long story short, the date started off with hot yoga. I was obsessed with hot yoga in Miami, which was amazing. And we stayed at this fabulous hotel called the Versace Mansion. It was after Mr. Versace had been killed on the steps there. And his sister, Donatella, I guess, leased or sold the place to another company that was an event management company, and they would hold events there. So they also had the ability for you to stay there in the hotel. So we were the only people in the Versace Mansion. We had 2 butlers waiting on us, and we ended up, we had a pizza delivered. We're sitting in this beautiful mansion. Actually, I have pictures of it at the bar, and they brought in a pizza. We had some wine, and it was so much fun. It was just something unusual, like a once in a lifetime thing, and a lot of good memories with that.
Wow.
Wow, that's really an amazing one.
It sounds like it was one of those spectacular nights, and the fact that you guys had pizza delivered while having butlers. Was there a chef?
Was there what?
A chef.
A shift?
Chef.
No. Oh, chef. Yes, there was a chef. It was, in a way, it was fascinating to be able to be in Giorgio Armani's, look at me, I'm so tired. Yeah, I'm in Armani's home now. Gianni Versace's home. And think about all the history that was there. And then Donatella had her own bedroom. And I think the furniture that was there was original. And so to have that opportunity to see something like that was amazing. Very expensive, I might add, but I wasn't paying, so that was really beautiful as well. But that's like a once in a lifetime thing. And for all the bad dates that I had, being dumped, being left somewhere, car accident, I could go on and on. It's nice to be able to have a date memory that was actually a really good one.
Yes,
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that.
It's like, wow.
Now, what about the perfect dates? I'm using date in air quotes with girlfriends getting together to go out and celebrate something, just have a girls' night out. What does that look like for you?
I think
either of you
I
doing it?
remember one when I was still studying. And ironically enough, it was one of my friends at the time, and my sister met her husband that night. So it was my friend's birthday, and me and my sister went to celebrate the birthday. And my sister initially was like, "No, I don't want to go out. I'll stay here. You guys go out. And when you come back, it's fine." And we kept nagging on at her. And eventually she said, "Okay, fine. I'll go with you. We'll just stay for a little bit and then we'll come back." So we went into the city, and there was quite a few different nightclubs and restaurants. So in Pretoria, especially where all the students are, there's one space where there's a few clubs and bars and restaurants all in one spot. So we went there and started dancing, enjoying ourselves. And I remember me and my friend, we were on the dance floor and really just enjoying ourselves, going nuts. And my sister disappeared. I was like, okay, where did she go to? And then later on, I found her at a table and she was talking to this guy. I'm like, okay, how did you guys meet? I'm like, no, we were dancing together and they started chatting. I'm like, okay, great. As long as I know where you are, I'm happy, right? So I'm the older one of the two of us, making sure she's safe and nothing happens. Went back to the dance floor. Later on, they danced a little bit. And I think it was about 1 or 2 in the morning, we decided, okay, that's enough. We now want to go home. And went to my sister. Of course, she's still chatting away. And told my sister, hey, we're going to go home. And the guy's like, okay, I'll take her. Now, of course, I have alarm clocks going off in my head because, no, you're not taking my sister anywhere. She's coming with me. Thank you so very much. So we said to him, well, if you want, we'll all drive in one car and you guys can follow us and we can go and have coffee at home. And they agreed to it. So he was there with his friend and they followed us, went home. We ended up just sitting and chatting till 5 o'clock the next morning. And of course, then they had to leave because they were working to be at work at, I think, 6:30. So they had no sleep. After that, of course, my sister and him kept visiting. And as I mentioned, they are now married and the rest is history. So yes, that was one of the memorable ones that I can remember of a friend date night that happened. Other than that, I love just getting coffee and going for walks.
I like that. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
It is my pleasure. How much she'll enjoy me sharing it, I'm not too sure.
We'll look forward to hearing from her.
And maybe you won't.
Yes, you guys will. I won't. In all likelihood.
Janetta, what about you? Coffee dates with girlfriends?
Yeah, I love coffee dates with girlfriends, but usually actually I'm much better on one-on-one. I'm not great in big crowds generally. I'm not great in even more than maybe 4 of us. But I really prefer to have a one-on-one so that I can really, again, be present with that person and hear everything that's going on, and we can share experiences. And to me, it's far more meaningful. So I very rarely, in fact, I don't know if I should tell this story. I'll do it in couch terms. A group, and a lot of them weren't my friends. They were my friends' friends. And this friend owns a lodge in the Maasai Mara. And she flew us out for her birthday for the weekend. And I mean, it was just lovely to be there. I grew up with this family. And some of them I really got on very nicely with, but others just weren't. We just didn't share the same interests. And so to me, that's a difficult weekend, not a relaxing weekend. So going out with the girls, to me, really has to be all the same type of person and not too big. Otherwise, I'm not enjoying myself, and I'm normally excusing myself to saying, well, see you sometime and bye. I'm much more on a personal level. Don't like big crowds anyway.
And don't bother calling anytime soon because I won't be answering.
They're probably the ones that didn't know me when I left. They went, well, she's a weird one anyway, so that's fine, you know. They're right, but
Well, you know what you like, you know what works for you.
Absolutely. I think as one gets older and older, you stop doing what others expect of you and become very refined and discerning. This works, this doesn't, and I'm not prepared to do it if it doesn't. And that's the end of that. So, we've got a close, as I was saying, for our wedding, a close band of friends who have been my friends for time immemorial. And they've been through so much with me, and I've been through so much with them here in Kenya that, they're there come hell or high water at this occasion. And I would do the same with them and for them. They're amazing people. That's a meaningful time together with the girls. And I mean, they've now got husbands, but that's it. It's the discernment.
Yeah, it's knowing what works, and especially as we age, we go through various cycles in life, and people come in and they come out, and you've got your core group of people who you've been with, and they're there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very interesting. The majority of them came in for me as my friends through my children in school. Through the band of school, which we shared a few weeks ago, where the warthogs are on the hockey field. So many of those friends have come. Kez is one of them, who we introduced last week. They've been around since my kids were small, and my kids are in their 30s now, so it's a long time. They've really become meaningful. Yeah. I think when you're sharing children and all those trials and tribulations, so of course they were there for me when Jenny died, beyond there for me and with me. And because they really related and they knew Jenny, and Jenny had been friends with their kids, it really puts a big bond there. Big bond.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have a lot of girlfriends, a lot, before the pandemic, and then things change and people don't live in the same place and priorities change. And so, as you know, I don't go anywhere. So if I'm not going anywhere, I'm not going with anyone anywhere. So to speak.
I think, Mariska, I think you and I need to get over to Florida or New Jersey or wherever one happens to be, the one, and do something about this. Really, I think it's time to change that happening, just even if it be for whilst we're there, and then you can go back to where you are. I think that's a good plan. I
think
decree.
That sounds like a good plan. Yes.
Yes.
Get Jacalyn out of the house.
Yeah.
I have to take my green screen, otherwise I can't produce the shows. I'll just go around the road with the green screen. Everywhere I go, I have a green screen. Maybe I can put it in my car behind me.
Like and a screen stick.
Yeah, butterfly wings, green butterfly wings.
Yeah, that's right. Woo, green butterfly wings. I love it. Oh my goodness.
Then we can have a little post at the bottom. Where did you spot Dr. Jacalyn?
Yeah, where in the world is Dr. Jacalyn?
Yeah, why not?
It would be a very easy answer.
At the moment, yes, but not when you're traveling with your green wings.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe it'll be like a magic carpet. I'll be flying over, and I'll just start filming in the field without the green screen. That would be cool too.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I love that. We're coming to the end of our show, and I want to give a little bit of time because I think it's really important to just talk about when you're in a relationship, because you both are in relationships, how do you find time for self-care and then still find time for the other person? So I'll start with Mariska.
That's an interesting question. I think it's a balance, and if and when we are with the person, the right person, being with them is self-care, to me, in any case. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, we have a very wide variety of different date nights, right? And some of them include literally taking a book, sitting on the couch, each of us with our own book and reading it, and just being in that space, being at the same time, to me it fills me up. So it's not like I even need anything else at that point, and it fills the self-care bucket as well as the relationship bucket. So I think understanding, to Jenetta's point earlier, understanding what it is that we need for ourselves, and then ensuring that we curate our relationship accordingly so that we both get that out. It helps us to have that self-care element within our relationship itself. So for me, I know, for instance, I can't sleep at night when my husband travels, right? I have a tendency to wake up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. So when he's not at home, I don't sleep properly, which means I don't rest properly, which means no matter how much self-care I practice, it's not really helpful for me, because he's part of my self-care package, and that's mine.
Ah, that's so beautiful. And I love the use of the word curate. Very nice.
Yeah,
Very
that
nice.
is and yeah. And I have a very similar story. Before I met Andy, I had by choice decided not to be in a relationship for over 6 years, because I realized that so much of what I was juggling had to do with me and what I was dealing with internally, and that until I addressed those, I would more than likely keep on attracting the type of person again and again and again in a different form. So for 6 years, I worked on myself. And so what would happen in those 6 years was, because I was so isolated and alone, and it got very lonely at times, I would use work as my crutch. So my self-care often got quite severely compromised. It brought a lot of things out, like inside my theatrical, or our theatrical production that a group of us put on. And writing my certification programs and writing Full Circle Rainbow, those all happened whilst I was on my own. So those were the positive outcomes, but self-care did go a bit wobbly a lot of the time, and I'd have to pull myself back and go, well, if I stop doing this, the loneliness is quite something. So my self-care, rather like Mariska, is that because I have somebody in my life that's on pretty well on the same plate as me, and I'm incredibly nurtured by Andy, which is something I've not had in a relationship before. Incredibly nurtured. So my self-care is like his self-care, and his self-care is my self-care. And so when things are getting out of balance, suddenly this man in my life is just stopping and holding me and bringing me a cup of tea and putting me to bed, or doing something, saying, okay, can we take you out here, or do you want to do this? Or it's so wonderful to have that ability to self-care with somebody else and do the same for them. Makes such a difference.
Wow, that's beautiful too. I'm so happy for both of you. Well, the four of you.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed this show. I love learning more things about the two of you, and I thank you so much for your loyalty and for being great team members and great friends. And I just really enjoy your friendship and also partnering with you here on this platform. So I'm going to spotlight each of you, and if you can just share with our audience, especially for people who are listening on a radio channel or a podcast and they can't see the banner. Let's start with Mariska. How can people reach out, and who would you like to contact you?
Ooh, okay. So for our viewers that can see the banner and our listeners, you can reach out to me via email. So my email address is Mariska, MARISKA, at journey2discover.com. Or alternatively, you can visit my website, which is journey2, again, the number 2, discover.com. Or you can link up with me via LinkedIn. Send me a short little message and say, hey, saw you on USA Global TV and Radio, and I would love to connect with you. So people that can reach out, of course, anybody can reach out, doesn't matter who you are. If you want to reach out, feel free to do that. But the people I normally work with is engineers and specialists moving into leadership positions, or leaders going a little bit higher within their leadership position, looking at upskilling their humanness skills, which sometimes can be a bit tricky for some of us. So that's the people I normally work with.
Thank you. Please go over to Mariska's LinkedIn and JENETTA'S and mine. We want to link in with as many people as possible. We're here to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. And now my dear friend JENETTA, who is hosting a 17-hour event starting on Monday. Do tell us.
Oh, well, not only am I hosting it, but the lady that's just introduced that is producing it and co-hosting it, and is USA Global TV, where we are platforming it. So it's going to be an incredibly inspiring day. It's called World Jenny's Day. It's being held on World Mental Health Day, and we're using theatre, the performing arts, and the arts to celebrate mental health wellness. And usually on a day like World Mental Health Day, there are a lot of talks and programs on the problems of people who are compromised by depression or whatever. And for years, I used to sit there and present in shows and present on stages. And I got to a point where I went, we're talking about people like they're broken. And they're not. They're just missing skills of some sort or some way. And it's knowing that there are accurate skills that can help you through when you're feeling compromised. They can. I've helped people who have been at the edge of life, wondering if they should really go on, and they're now living normal lives. It's entirely possible to turn it around. And with that knowledge, then we can celebrate mental health wellness. And one of the ways that softens that is using theatre and the arts. Those conversations soften. So we've got 17 hours of actors, comedians, singers, dancers, painters. We've got an LA mural being painted for World Jenny's Day as we speak. We've got a meditation with 2 horses in New Zealand, thanks to Mariska here. We've got 2 people on the metaverse. One's got a uni museum on the metaverse with NFT art in it. You can visit it. It's all graphic. And the other one's got a business global village on the metaverse. We've got that. Think the art in that. It's going to be a packed day. We've got 50 people performing throughout that day. And in fact, Dr. Jacalyn, we've just got a very special person who performs on the West End. She joined today going, I can't wait to be part of this. So it's really growing exponentially.
Congratulations, JENETTA.
And to get hold of us on that day, well, USA Global TV has our links as well. We have our links on all our social medias. So if you go to Janetta Barry or World Jenny's Day, all the links are there on the day to get there. And we're starting at 10 a.m. London time here on this platform. And we're going right through to 10 p.m. New York time on the 10th of the 10th. And that was the day that my daughter Jenny died. So that's why we use it as an occasion to celebrate that there are solutions.
And that means we'll be starting at 5 a.m. New York time. So
and I'll be finishing at 5 a.m. on the 11th of October at the end of those 17 hours.
Let's take pictures of ourselves before and after the 17 hours. Can't wait. I'm excited. Well, it's time to close out our show. This has been another fun, productive, really entertaining episode. So thank you. And for those of you who want to watch all of our episodes, please go over to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com. Go to USA Global TV and Radio, and you'll find this show in our playlist, which is A Woman's Prerogative. That's our last show for today. We'll be coming back bright and early tomorrow with another full day of broadcasting. So thank you, everyone, for being here. If you want to book in for any of our shows, please go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Bye, Mariska. Bye, Janetta.
Bye. Bye.